Alright, what's up guys, this is Moji, and I'm back in Hobo Land. And yes, I'm back in the Hobo Land, and it's been annoying me a little. Just, there's really like two tents, down the track. And I really like the spot. I want to come back here. I don't want to do videos somewhere else, but I kind of like have to adjust myself. So yeah, and I've been a little busy recently, so I was not making a lot of videos. But hey, this one is, I want to talk about, I want to start pros and cons. I had this idea of a series. I have a glare. Okay, so I want to start the series about pros and cons, and it's the idea of starting to talk about RPG topics, but in a real or more critical way. Like, I mean, not want to get out of tastes and biases as much as possible. I know it's not like you will see, even when you do pros and cons, even when you want to share, the two sides of a thing, you end up talking about your taste, and you're never really objective. So, but at least you'll get two perspectives. So I don't want to do two videos. I want to do one video. So this one is about prep, and it's a topic that I've discussed a lot over here on this channel during the past years, and prep. I have a love and hate relationship with prep, and my mind has changed a lot about prep. So when I first started, I was GMing, and I was new to the hobby as well, and I was vlogging at the same time. So I was learning everything as I was doing it, and I basically was doing a lot of prep. For me, it was really important because it was kind of like a security net, like a safety net. Like, okay, so I will be prepping all kind of shit, and I will be ready to face all possibilities. And one of the good side of prepping is that is kind of fun in and of itself. So for some people call it like it's like a writing process, right? Some people even insult the GM process, calling it like a wannabe writer, who never managed to sit and write something. So it is what it is. I mean, it's you sit down and you create NPCs, so you create characters, and then you create some plot twists and hooks, when starting situations and events and stuff like that. And some GMs, they go deep, and they will spend hours, prepping, backstories for their NPCs and life of their own, and stuff happening without the players, almost like it is some kind of I don't know how, something crazy, and I was doing a little bit of that. I was not super crazy about it, but I was doing a little bit of that. I was creating different NPCs and starting situation and almost like a tree. Okay, if the player do this, it's gonna go like that. If the player do this, it's gonna go like that. And the pros of that, and I want to talk about oh man, I think it's gonna have to be more than one video. Okay, so the pros of that is that it's fun in and of itself, doing the thing. And but also another pro as a GM, when you get into when you are a player and you get into a game where the GM has been doing that, the world feels fleshed out. The world feels real, because when you talk to the NPCs and you ask questions, they have answers. And it doesn't feel like it comes out of their ass. It doesn't feel like you invented it live. Like it feels like it was written before. It feels like, almost feel like the GM has been there with these characters before, kind of thing. So it's kind of like, and I heard that before from some people who are preppers in the hobby and like prep, players or GM, doesn't matter. But I heard that before. It's the idea of like, I feel like I'm discovering something as a player. Like, I go and I feel like I'm discovering something because I know the GM prepped something, and I want to know what he prepped, kind of thing. A little bit like someone watching a TV show or watching a movie. Like, okay, there is something ready for me there, so I'm gonna finish the thing and see what was there for me, kind of thing. And for me, the longest time, I called that railroading. I was like, okay, so that's railroading, because the GM spend amount of hours or amount of time on some prep, and he wants to use it, right? So if he wants to use it, he's going to force it on me. Therefore, I'm not going to have real agency. I'm going to have an illusion of agency. So that was one of the main things that was frustrating me as a player for the longest time. And then so that's a con, pros and cons. So one bad side of prepping is that it can do that, right? So it can create that effect on players, and it can, it's not an illusion, it's real. Like some GM, I'm not saying all preppers do that, I'm saying some will use stuff like Quantum Ogre, just to make sure that what was prepped happens, because otherwise they have nothing, and then they lose their safety net, and anxiety, and then so you know what I'm saying, you know where I'm going with this. So that's a con, because if you do that, if you create that illusion, even if the player doesn't notice, it's a little bit like it's not cheating. But in English, you guys have the cheating word that is interesting. It's kind of like cheating. It's like, when you are in a couple and you go with somebody else, it's like it's kind of like it's a trust thing. So, when you are a player, you want to have agency on the world. You want to know that if you turn right, it's not the same as if you turn left. You want to feel that shit, right? And Quantum Ogre take that away from you, because you will never know. That's the whole idea of the Quantum Ogre. So that is the bad side of prepping that sometimes happens, but it doesn't have to be that way. It's not necessarily going to be that way. So prepping, and then coming back from that, you have the low prep approach. So for most recently, when I was vlogging, let's say a couple years ago, I became a low prep, no prep, full improv advocate. And I got that from Vincent Baker's Apocalypse World. And when you read Apocalypse World, there is a paragraph that is like really important, changed me. And I still believe in some of the stuff that is there. I have not changed my mind. But I see the limits now a little bit more, growing up in the hobby. And he said something like, don't prep. It's really important. Resist the temptation as a GM. Or they don't call it a GM, they call it something else. Again, I don't remember. Resist the temptation. It's really important. And I'm like, wow, that's fucking awesome. Why? What's going on? And then I realized, now today I know that the game is designed, the Apocalypse World games, they have a really tight structure. You know, if the dice go that happens. If the dice say that happens. If the dice say that happens. So the game is all structured. That's why you don't want to prep in these kind of games, because the structure is there to tell you how it's going to go. And when you prep too much, you will mess up with the structure, because you will be tempted as a GM to put your prep there. Now, the low prep approach. So there was just a tangent to tell you like where my low prep love and improv came from. And so I did that for a couple of years. You know, played Burning Wheel, no prep at all, only prepping the starting situation. So it takes 5 minutes, 10 minutes to do, so you don't have to no NPC, no nothing. And because the player do a lot of that stuff in Burning Wheel. So, but Burning Wheel can be played with a lot of prep as well. It doesn't, you know, it doesn't matter. And I started to think that it doesn't matter for most games. Maybe not the Apocalypse World game for the reason I mentioned, but hey. So, low prep, the pros. There is a lot of good pros with low prep. For example, it's not tiresome. It's lazy. It's easy. You don't do nothing, right? You really don't do much. It's really important. It's a real thing, and that allows you to play easily. It's easier to do the hobby. I mean, it's not time consuming. It doesn't take energy, right? So that is huge, because this hobby is hard to make it happen. I don't know about you guys. Even now on the internet nowadays, it might be a little bit easier, but making a session happen with people, you know, creating character, getting the people together, and all that, it's a lot of work. It is work. I mean, and people reading books and understanding rules and gathering around and stuff. It's not easy. Not for me. So the idea of the pros of the low prep, one of the major pros is that it's easier to play more often and to play on the fly and stuff like that, because you don't have to spend an afternoon, you know, designing shit, like creating characters and NPCs and events and backstories and locations and all that. Now, so that's good, you know, in and of itself. I mean, it has value, and it's kind of like the opposite of heavy preppers. But the cons of low prep is that it's exactly the opposite of heavy prep. The world doesn't feel real. The world feels like a fast food world. Like it feels, and it's really true. I really believe that. It feels like a world made of card box. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. Like, even if you have great descriptions, I mean, you can have like description of smells and temperatures and textures and all that. No worries. I mean, the world can feel real in the description, but I mean, in terms of depth and in terms of like, you create names on the fly. So sometimes you create names and it shows that it comes out of your ass, because you think about it before in front of everybody and like, okay, his name's gonna be this, and then you have to write it on the paper to remember, and then you have to find the voice right there, you know. And sometimes the session after, the voice is not the same because you're not prepping. So you're like, okay, oh shit, I forgot, the voice was more like that, right? Okay, and then you come back, and so it creates that really tinfoil world kind of thing, because you haven't prepped anything, you haven't conceptualized, you know, the way he speaks, his attitude, the values, and all that, right? And so that is a major con, but at least, you know, you manage to play and have fun still, kind of thing. So, and it's you know, I've encountered that, and I've felt that, I've been through that. So for me, pros and cons, you know, of prepping start to make more sense, you know, as I grew up. I played recently with Condor DM, and after the game, I was like, man, how long did you prep for that? I was like, fuck, this shit was heavy, you know. I was like, And I said to myself, you probably use a world you know already, with people that you know already, because it felt like he knows these people. And, it felt like he's been there before. Knows the city, knows the neighborhood, knows the places. And I believe him. He said no. It's the stuff I created for you for the game. But he prepped 8 hours. He mentioned to me 8 hours, and I believe, just for the amount of information that was in the 2-hour session, I believe the guy. But I'm like, Jesus Christ, 8 hours. I felt just for me, just for one guy, kind of thing. So I felt very touched by that. I felt. So thank you again, Stephen, for that. It was a great session. And we're gonna keep going. We have some kind of a narrative arc we want to do. But it showed to me something. I was like, okay. I was always scared of those GMs who prep too much, because I didn't want to be put on a railroad, right? And it did not felt like that. It did not felt like that. So the way I came out of that session got me thinking about low prep versus prep. And I said, you know what? This is going to be the first video of my series, because I want to talk about pros and cons. And I do think this. Here's my conclusion to this. I think that there are games that demand low prep, like the apocalypse games or stuff like that, or more like games where the player creates story in the rules, right? So there's a bunch of those out there, and I do think that these games you don't want to prep too much, because you might gonna mess up the mechanic. But in a free-form game like AD&D Second Edition, that's a really free-form game. Just it's written by design in it, the culture around it. It's really old school. I don't even have a character sheet to play that game. It's like everything is written on a sheet, and the GM takes the rules you want and doesn't use the other ones, and it's really, really another approach. And so in these games, heavy prep is kind of it's not necessary at all, but it makes a huge difference. And so I do think that depending on the style of game, depending on the level of drama and the level of depth you want, these two approaches are to be considered. Either low or heavy. And for me now, this is the way I see it. If I play one session with a few people, on Halloween using Dread, I will do low prep. If I have 5 session or 10 session of World of Darkness, mage or vampire with a few friends over a few months, I will do heavy prep. Now, this is the way I see now. And for the good reasons and the bad reasons, I just covered. And I'm sure there's more. I just don't have enough time. I have to go, but I'm sure there's more, right, to it. And it's so. I would say I would finish this for the first video of this series. Like, to every concept and every approach there is in this hobby, you can find pros and cons like that. But I think we also can find a place where they could fit better one than the other. And when you find your niche in these different kind of strategies and all these games there is to be played, and type of campaign and type of culture around the table, eventually you can find the right tools you need to do the job, right? And I will keep my journey. I'm gonna go back on my journey to find the tools that I need and that I prefer. Anyway, thank you for watching. Let me know what you guys think about these ideas, and I see you guys around. Talk to you soon.